noise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy.
Do you feel that the counts, were overlooked to some extent? And
yeah, a lot of it was our fault. We didn't have proper management at the time because when I go back and look at it, and I think about it all the time, the Parliament Funkadelic Ohio players, and we were all on the same level. Then Parliament went to Warner Brothers. Ohio players went to Mercury, I think it was, and we came down here to Atlanta, and that's why I say it was a mistake leaving Westbound. We should have stayed at Westbound, instead of coming somewhere where people didn't know. First of all, they want to put a bass player with us and change our whole sound, and that was the mistake. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all those bands did leave Westbound. Funkadelic left, so.
And all of them elevated except for us, and we were just as good. But we didn't have the right management and things like that, So it is what it is.
What was it also a bit of maybe just really wanting to stick to what you had been doing and not wanting to sell out, so to speak, to get a hit?
I think that might have a little bit to do with it. For instance, when we came to Atlanta, disco was really in. And that gets back to the Mr. Penguin thing. That's what we should have done with the counts, is just, played some disco and put our thing on the disco thing. And I blame myself on that because, like I say, I had a lot to do with what it sounded like. So, yeah, I can say that you got a point there. We tried to sound like ourselves and not really put the ear on what was going on, which you definitely have to do that.
But it's a double-edged sword, I think, because, now in hindsight, looking back, those who really appreciate the counts, I think probably appreciate them that much more because your body of work was more authentic in kind of a way, that you really stuck to that.
Yeah, that's true. But we could have done both, like we did with Lunar Funk, with Mr. Penguin. But I mean, hey, that's life.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so what inspired you and what went into putting your solo record out?
The counts had broke up, and I just needed to put out something different. It was pretty decent. I've done 2 solo albums since, though, that are a lot better than that, But at the time it was okay. But I just needed to record something different. Mm-hmm.
So were you thinking, how can I make this different from the counts at the time?
Not really, because at the time, we put out What's Up Front That Counts, and I wrote 90% of that. All those songs were mine. I wrote them all except for one. Which was Leroy's, Why Not Start All Over Again. So a couple of the members of the band say that, we should just, that whole thing that all bands go through where everybody needs to write or whatever. And so then we did Love Sign, and it wasn't what the counts were about, I felt. And so that was the beginning of the end, basically. So I said, well, man, let me write my own thing where I can do what I want to do. And Leroy did something. He wrote a Kunta Kinte song or something. So we just kind of splintered. Mm-hmm.
But you're still on good terms though with everybody when that happened.
Leroy was just here. He did some recordings. I'm putting out a new CD. He was down recording on that. That was probably, let me see, around July. Then he was just here. I did a concert in Macon, and I called him to do that with me. So we're still friends. Andrew, the drummer, we're friends too. He wrote a song that's going to be on my recording also.
Oh, that's great. Great that you guys are still going and that you're still, friends, and that's outstanding. And we're gonna plug whatever you have going before I let you go for sure. Yeah, but before that, let's talk a little bit about Bohannon. So, man, you what was it like? At least 15 records I saw you did with that band, right?
Yeah. Okay. What happened there? When the group splintered off. We were going through a terrible economic time at the time. We were down here with this record company in Atlanta, and meals were scarce, to put it bluntly. And Bohannon, we had started recording with Bohannon we did Stop and Go, Leroy and myself. So we were on that first record that he put out that was a hit. And then after that, everything he did, he used us. So then Leroy started touring with him. I still stayed here, but after a while, I joined too, just to make ends meet. And that just continued up until Bohannon passed. Mm-hmm.
Did you replace somebody, or did you just fill a vacancy?
Well, like I said, I played keys on everything that he had done. So basically, the original keyboard player started playing with him,
Okay, yeah.
And we had Rod Lumpkin also played. He played keys, great player. And so you had two keyboard players. You had two guitar players, Leroy and Rick Rouse. Rick Rouse played with Shaka Khan and Funkadelic, and great guitar player. So he put together. Bo was smart. He put together a great band.
Yeah, and the guitars were wicked on those tracks.
Henderson, Ray Parker. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What can you tell the folks most about Bohannon as a talent musician and just kind of his personality quirks?
Great businessman. Knew what was selling. Getting back to that, that's always the key. You got to know what's happening out there. He knew what was happening. He knew how to put it together. That was his main thing. He had many quirks. But all in all, he was a great guy. Very fair and respectful guy. But you had to know him. You really had to know both. If you didn't know him, you might cock your head a little bit.
Yeah, I think I remember Leroy saying how he was a little standoffish until he found out that they shared like Atlanta in common, and then it just broke the ice.
Well, with me, Bo would come to the club we were playing at. I was telling you about earlier about the superstition story and all that. So Bo would come in his black leather jacket and his black everything, and he'd sit back and listen and everything. Never said nothing, I was saying, what is up with this guy? But he talked to Leroy, but he never said anything to me, and then later on, after I got to know Bo better, he said, yeah, man, I used to come and y'all were the tightest band in Detroit. I tell everybody that, and blah, blah, but, thinking back, I was thinking, this guy doesn't even speak, what's up? But that's just Bo, that's how he was. Until he got to know me. So I never know he was thinking that. I used to think he was just coming there to see Leroy. And then when he brought Stevie in, I didn't know, but he had been telling Steve, you got to hear this band. But you never know that from the outside.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, knowing, that he was basically a band leader,
Yeah, yeah. hmm Yep, and he was a fair man. He was fair. I put it that way. He treated us well. He treated us better than most band leaders treated their bands back then. You know, most band leaders would fly from one place to the next. With Bo, we all flew. We all stayed in 5-star hotels. So yeah, it's he bought cars for a lot of people in his band. Good guy, good guy, fair. hmm
Yeah, I always looked at him, and I think I said this before, but being sort of a James Brown kind of thing, and that he had that groove that was so identifiable and
Yeah,
just, that style, and just put out so many records of it. And the band was tight.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point to make, and you could tie them together like that. hmm James had his little idiosyncrasies. So I guess that's what great musicians have, all of them.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's comes with the territory if you're what they call it, a creative genius, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
or yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, how did you temper your keyboard style in the Bohannon sound versus the Counts sound?
Oh, it's pretty much the same thing rhythmically. The only difference is there was a bass player. That's the only difference. So by this time I learned to play with a bass player. So, pretty much for me, it was still the same. I could still do my thing, but I wasn't playing the bass. I wasn't playing the bottom. That's the only difference.
Mm.
hmm
What about on the live shows? Did you get any spotlight or just kind of in the background?
Kind of in the background, it was and mainly we were just uh, Ray Parker was on the show. Uh, it was about 10 musicians on stage, so we played the songs. It's funny because there was no bass player, so I had to play bass on the show. How about that? On the last show that we did, I played bass on it,
Like old times.
like old time. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
remember? Do you remember maybe the first time or early on when you first heard yourself on the radio on the track? How that felt?
That felt great. Felt great. I heard Jan Jan. I was at home and uh, Ernie Durham, a broadcaster, very popular broadcaster in Detroit, broke the record and he played all the time and he'd be talking while it was going on. There's an instrumental, so he talk, oh yeah, listen to that. Play it, boy, all that kind of stuff as the song was going and he played at least once an hour, at least. Uh-huh. And it got to be very popular. I think he broke that record, and it was quite a good feeling. And it went on from there. The Counts got pretty popular after that. But it was a great feeling. There's nothing like that.
Mm.
hmm
And were you still a teenager then, or were you already in your 20s?
Let's see. I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
20. Because I had gotten married. Jan Jan, that was my wife. And I wrote that for her. And I know I was married at 20, and that's when it came out. Mm-hmm.
Getting back to Bohannon, one thing about his music I always felt was, it got categorized a lot of it as disco, but there was a funky, subtext in so much of that music, even if it was more up tempo.
Um, yeah, well, like song for my mother that was on that first album, that was kind of like gospel like. It had a little funk in there, but you could almost say it had gospel overtones. And a little later on, Mary J. Blige sampled that song. And a lot of his songs, like South African Man, that had a reggae thing going on. So, it was more than disco. hmm His big hits, Let's Start to Dance and uh, foot stomping music. Yeah, those were disco, but it was a lot more stuff going on each album.
And I'm guessing that, in the live context, a lot of the disco acts of that era couldn't bring it on stage necessarily. But
Yeah.
Bohannon, you guys, you brought it.
Yes, yeah, because all of us were players. We all played our instruments. There's no messing around. We all were great players.
You remember any TV experiences?
Yeah, we did Soul Train with Bohannon. That was the main one that I remember with him. The Counts was like all of your local TV shows in Detroit. Yeah. So answering that, not really. We didn't do too much. It was really before the visual aspect of the music industry really got popular.
Mm-hmm.
When you put out something, you got to have video with it. Back then, it was all radio. Yeah, when we were doing our thing.
You remember a particular show or tour with Bohannon that just really stands out from back in the day?
Yeah, when we did Madison Square Garden, that one I remember because once again, I'm a sports junkie, so playing at Madison Square Garden where Ali fought Frazier and the Knicks played Clyde Frazier, and I remember that. Yeah. And then I remember playing in the Forum in LA. Yeah. Those the music part was all kind of the same, but the locations tripped me out a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. What was there anybody that you encountered that maybe was on the same tour or a concert bill that you were like, wow, these guys are really good. They really have it together.
Central Station. Larry Graham. Yes, Larry Graham. Other than that, when the Counts went out with the Funkadelics on that tour, Bootsy, I really liked Bootsy. I liked how he wasn't a star then; he was just playing with the Funkadelics, and he had played with James. But I saw the he had something, he had something that gravitated you to it, and it was the joy of what he was doing, and I just remember being inspired by that, and making a note to always let people know you're enjoying what you're doing, because that was Bootsy all the way.
Yeah, that joy is infectious. People pick up on that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's interesting that you mentioned two bass players, though, since you didn't have a bass player in the Counts, but Bootsy and Graham.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever see Larry Graham with Sly?
Oh, no, I didn't. Yes, what am I talking about? That was one of the shows that I'll never forget. We saw Sly in Detroit. He played, and like we got there, Leroy was with me and our wives, and we were sitting there waiting. So Sly was late, so we had to wait around for a while. The instruments were on stage, so we knew he was going to be there. So and like Larry Graham really influenced how I played the bottom of the organ. I tried to emulate what Larry was doing. So you're right. Even though we didn't have a bass player, I listened to the great bass players and learned from them. And then like Jimmy Smith, he played the bass, so I learned from him. So yeah, I listened to those guys. So anyway, Sly finally got there, and well, he finally came on stage, and it was a great show. And of course, Larry Graham was killing it. And I had a crush on Rose Stone, Sly's sister. Oh, yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Wow.
Great show.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I never got. Well, actually, I did see Sly perform on a TV taping in the early '70s, but I never saw a full concert though. Graham, I did get to see at the Forum.
The thing about Sly that I didn't realize until later on, he's a great organ player. Great organ player. But I never really listened to what he was doing back in the day because I was so pure into Jimmy Smith and all those guys. But Sly is a great organ player. Oh, great. Yes. Singer out of this world. All that group could sing. Yeah.
Yeah. Sly was a multi-instrumentalist. I mean, people don't think of him.
His brother Freddie, great guitar player. Cynthia, great trumpet player. Oh, that was a great group. That's my favorite all-time group. Still to this day. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I do.
So what was the last thing you did with Bohannon?
The last thing I did was that show that I had to play bass because we had no bass player. Um, he had done some recordings out of his house, but they never went anywhere. I did those recordings with him, so we did a lot of recordings that you probably won't hear. And but the last show he did, we talked about.
And what year about was that?
Uh, I put that maybe. Let's see. This is 23. I would say that was 21. Mm-hmm. 21, early 21.
How do you feel that? How do you feel that Bohannon's legacy is being, honored or recognized?
I don't think it is. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say on that. I don't think he's recognized for what he did.
And people will see and hear this. So, what do you think he should be recognized for?
The way he did disco, the way he did his music, because like we were discussing, he did more than just disco. He did other things that were very creative and sounded good. He didn't get credit for it, or he wasn't recognized for it, pretty blankly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, even when he had some really big hits in the latter 70s, I don't know why, but he didn't seem to get quite the same recognition as some others,
Yeah. Well, that goes to record companies putting it behind who they want to put it behind. You can take that and we go back to the counts on that, because a lot of people said, I read things on us to this day and they say, I don't understand why those guys didn't make it. Simple. We didn't get what is it, the promotion, what have you. We didn't get it.
right?
Gave it to somebody else. So.
But did you ever think that 50 years later you'd be talking to somebody like me about that legacy?
No, but I'm glad. I'm glad that once again it brings up the fact that you're not forgotten. People still care about you, and it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that music has aged really well. I mean, its uniqueness has only gained in stature, if anything, since then, right?
I agree. And it goes to I use this argument a lot of times with younger musicians when I'm trying to explain something to them, and they'll say, "Yeah, but that stuff y'all were doing is old." I said, "Well, Queen Latifah sampled What's Up Front That Counts. She sampled that lick on What's Up Front That Counts. I'm still getting paid. I get paid every 3 months for that." Snoop Dogg sampled my song on What's Up Front That Counts. It was called Pack of Lies. I get paid for that every 3 months. I'm getting a lot of people sample the Count stuff. A lot of people sample Bohannon stuff. So that lets you know that your stuff is still happening. And the paycheck, the little check I get, that says, "Okay, you did something in life, buddy." Yeah.
Also, a lot of times, if they get a record award or something like that, you might get that too, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But Dr. Dre, that was the first guy that just straight out paid us. Where he paid me for what he used on Who Am I? What's My Name? He used what I did on Pack of Lies on the Counts. And then we had to remind Queen Latifah that she sampled us on What's Up Front. We had to remind a few folks, but we got paid. Yeah, yeah.
How'd you feel when you first heard somebody sample something that you were involved with?
I was honored. I was honored. Yeah. And the way it happened, my oldest daughter, Monica, she said, "Daddy, somebody's using your music." And I said, "What? What are you talking about?" And then she played Queen Latifah, and the lick came on from What's Up Front the Council. I said, "Wow," and then a little late after that, Dr. Dre sampled us. I heard that one straight out. Uh huh. But it's an honor. That lets you know that you did do something in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sampling especially seems like a definite progression or outgrowth of keys, of keyboards. It's so tied into that.
yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of a continuing evolution of what you started with in that.
Well, people always say music is circular. Everything comes back. Like jazz is coming back. You hear jazz in funk and pop music now. So everything is circular. Stevie used was Dizzy Gillespie and one of those. So Sir Do. Yeah,
Do I do?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do
Yeah.
I do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything is circular.
Hmm.
Nothing's original. Everything comes back.
What did you get really busy with once Bohannon wasn't, a major thing? And what have you been really doing other than what we've talked about the past 20 years?
Oh, okay. Well, all of a sudden, I had a love affair with Atlanta, and Atlanta has kept me more busy than I've ever been in my life. I've done two solo albums since then that are pretty good. Did one entitled Sunshine. I followed that one with Let the Music Take You. So those are the CDs that I have out now, and I work about 9 days a week you know. So I stay pretty busy. Like it took us forever to contact each other because I'm always busy, always.
Yeah.
Rex that turned you on to me. Rex had been trying to get me uh, about his cold funk jam. I'm gonna do a recording with him on that. It took him forever to reach me. So yeah, I'm gonna hook up with him and do some work. And just busy, blessed, working church, and uh, I did a church album with my church, Providence Baptist Church. Just busy, busy. I'm a blessed guy. Can't complain.
That's fantastic. What sorry to say, I haven't heard your later solo albums.
Uh,
What style mostly is on those?
Sunshine, you can hear the counts basically. Leroy played guitar with me on it. I've got two great horn Jimmy Brown, they played with Brick. He's playing on there. Um, uh, uh, great, great musicians all around. Marcus Williams on drums, and I can go on and on. And but that stuff has got the early counts, uh, what's up front the counts vibe to it. The second album it was a couple of vocals on it. Let the Music Take You. It was okay. I preferred Sunshine though. That was a better CD. The one I'm working on now is a reflection of what we're talking about. The OG of the groove. That's what I call it. And it's stating how I've been around playing the grooves forever. I
When
can't wait to finish this one.
when do you think that one might be ready?
I will give that 2 months. Yeah, you've heard of Sonny Emery, right? The drummer.
Hmm.
Sonny is on that project. Yeah, he's doing drums on it, and I recorded a couple of things at his studio, and he likes it, so I'm impressed by that. And I say, okay, if Sonny likes this, it's pretty good. And the Sunshine album, Frankie Beverly invested in that, and he believed in it wholeheartedly. He even shopped it for a deal for me. But once again, we getting into the record labels and that. So I ended up putting it out myself.
How many years ago was your previous record?
Previous, I'd say about 4 years. 4 years
Okay.
ago. Hmm.
Mm.
Let the music take you. But you can get those on Amazon, and you can all the outlets, the CD where you order them. They're all you can get them from there. Sunshine and Let the Music Take You.
Okay. And do you have a website or someplace people can reach out or keep track of what's going on with you?
Yeah, it's mosedavis.net. I got to do a little update on it, but you know. But since we've done this, yeah, I'll make sure that they can. mosedavis.net, or you can uh, Facebook, of course, you know. So there are ways
Track you down. Yeah.
I can
Uh,
be that.
so when you look back at everything, Mose, what would you say you're most proud of accomplishing in your music career?
The counts. Hmm. No doubt. Point blank.
And just because of the creativity or what aspect do you think?
The creativity, the musicians, we were all high school buddies. And to be high school buddies and become somewhat stars, it's unmatchable, you know. Like in sports, if you got guys to grow up together, like I was reading LeBron's book, and he was talking about his high school team, how they grew up together and went to school together and won the state championship. And that's one of his proudest moments. Well, it counts as mine. To have it was three friends, three high school friends, and we said we're going to call ourselves the Counts, and we split up, and as we grew older, and then I took the name and put it to a band, and the band got popular. That's my biggest thrill, and hearing Jan on the radio.
Yeah. Was
Uh-huh.
what was the name that counts intended to be sort of a double entendre in that it was kind of like the royalty aspect and also the counting of music?
Oh, the royalty, gentlemen, just gentlemen playing music. Yeah.
Because it works the other way too, counting music, you know?
Yeah. Well, that gets into another thing with me. My creativity. Well, for Jan, I was at the time I was in Detroit and I was working in a factory, and I was listening to this stamping press, and the stamping press was pressing out metal in rhythm, and I listened to that rhythm and got Jan off of it. Dun, 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 dun. That rhythm, that stamping press was stamping out that rhythm. I said, oh, okay. And I took, if you got your mind into the music, and you keep your mind open and your ears, and that's how you get stuff, or you listen to what people are saying as far as songwriters, and that's how you get stuff. You always got to be open to what's going on.
Yeah, that's great advice. I was going to ask you if you had any advice to young keyboard players. Anything
Uh,
else besides that?
Now that's it. And theory, uh, get a book on theory, learn your chords and your scales, and practice and learn to use your ears. If you hear something, try and play it. If you hear something on the radio you like, try and play it. Why can't I play this? And just keep going at it until you can get it. Keep those ears open. Hmm.
Do you think it's a lot easier today and that you can just, watch videos on YouTube or whatever and try to copy those compared to listening to the vinyl records and keep,
Oh, it's much easier because even now, when I have to learn a song, if something difficult, I can just uh, put it on CD, slip it into a guitar trainer, and just let the trainer repeat and learn it. Or you have keyboards that record you where you can just keep going over something until you get it right. So it's much easier these days. Yes, still got to put work into it, but it's a lot easier. Hmm.
yeah, but at the same time, it may be easier, but some way young players need to find their own signature elements. to put on top of it.
Yeah, instead of trying to sample something, and all of that, because you get in, a lot of these guys now are sampling and not really playing anything. They're getting hits, so yeah, they'll look at me like, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" But I feel that you do need to train and practice and theory. At least learn music theory.
Yeah.
Learning what's a minor key, what's a major, and how to harmonize and all that. That's theory. Mm-hmm. And what's wrong, or if you do something that's not right, like when you try to put a major something on a minor, if you don't have theory, that's not right. And then you go to a record company or something, they say, "Hey, this doesn't sound right." It's because you haven't practiced your theory. Mm-hmm. See, and if you sample, the theory is in the sampling.
Are there any sessions or incidents or things like that took place that we didn't cover?
Well, one in a Bohannon session, Bohannon and I laugh about this to this day. It was on the first Bohannon album. There was this song that had a gong in it, and the guy wouldn't play the gong right, and Bo had a temper tantrum and went over and hit the gong to show him how to play the gong right, and he hammered on the gong, and it was so funny. And Bo and I laughed. We always laughed about that, always. It was so funny. And this was because he was so intense in the studio, So, engineers and whatever say, this guy's crazy, but he was just intense. Mm-hmm. He didn't mean anything. He just wanted his music correct. With us, the Counts, just the joy of being in the studio, and recording. It was great.
Did Bohannon give you any specific directions related to your parts, or you just kind of do it on your own?
He would hum what he wanted me to do, or give me an idea of what he wanted, but basically he would sing something to me, and then I'd have to put it to music. Mm-hmm. That's how he did all the guys, really. Kind of hum their parts, and then we'd take what he hummed and put it to music.
Hmm. That aspect is also similar to James Brown.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, James had a little organ skill, though. He could play the organ a little taste. Yeah, that was my man. I like James. Yeah.
I'm guessing you saw him at some point play, right?
Yeah, I saw him live. Leroy and I saw James live, and quite impressed. The two drummers, the fact that he was the star of the show, but the first thing he saw at the James Brown show was him walking out. James walked out at the start of his show, and he'd do a tune, then he'd go back and have other people come on and do something. But basically, it was his show from start to finish. That was impressive. Usually, you see a warm-up act, then another warm-up act, and then finally the star. But James popped right out there. And I found that refreshing.
So you saw him at the height, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The cold sweat days, all of that. All those, when he was really hot. He had Maceo with him. I got to meet Maceo. That was an honor. Yeah.
Wow. Another guy that ended up playing with Bootsy later on.
Well, Maceo was on a Bohannon session, and he got to meet me. He liked the organ, and I was playing organ at that time, and he actually wanted me to come and play with him. And that was an honor. The Counts was still going at the time, so I really couldn't. But it was an honor for him to ask me to come out and play with him.
That was when he had left James Brown. He was doing like Maceo and the Max or something like that.
Well, he had left James at the time. He was starting his own thing.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, I think we covered it all then, sounds like, right?
Yes, it seems like.
Okay. Fantastic. Mose, I so appreciate it. And, thank you for all the music through the years on behalf of all the viewers and listeners, bringing that joy to us. We are indebted. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a joy.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.